TV.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Small Business Show. Back in the saddle, we've got a great opportunity to have a really good discussion today, Linda.
We have, and it's a discussion that's very topical at the moment. And I want to ask our guests, their points of view on it and see if we can get the true facts about this topic.
Well, I'm glad we're doing another little panel today. It's really good. I think we've been doing them in a couple different segments, and we're really getting some good viewer response to it. So I'm looking forward to this one too, because it's an interesting sideline to this discussion.
I agree with you, Steve.
So I'm going to, basically just take some moment and really just get a chance to understand that entire question that you're going to ask as soon as we get back from a break, because I think for me, it's important that we really get to the understanding of the technical side of what these guests do, as well as what we want to talk about.
Technical a little bit. It's more about the topic that I think is really relevant, even in today's, news yesterday. It was really relevant.
So we're going to take that, and we're going to take a moment and take a break, and we'll be back on the Small Business Show. Hi, and welcome back to the Small Business Show. We're really going to get into some technical side today, but not so much. I'm going to let you introduce our two guests today.
Today we've got some fantastic guests. We've got Sharon Bennet, who works at LinkedIn. Thank you for coming along, Sharon. You really know a lot about the topic we can talk about today. And Dave Ockwell-Jenner, who is my business partner and my husband and my mentor. So thank you, Dave, for coming along today. I really appreciate it. The topic Steve and I would like to cover today is women in tech. And Sharon, I'm going to start with you for the simple reason, first of all, how did you get into tech and what do you do now, before we go into the topic of, why are there not enough women in tech?
I started in tech back in my late teens. A friend of mine had a computer, and I kind of was just driven towards it. And so over the years, it's been almost 25 years now, and now I teach cloud technologies.
At LinkedIn?
At LinkedIn, yes.
Yeah, and do you enjoy it?
I love it.
I can tell, because you're always, talking
always smiling.
Always smiling. You love your job.
I do.
That's wonderful, thank you. Dave, how did you get into the tech world?
Well, I guess very much a similar story. Always an interest of mine right from a young age. I think, had my first encounter with computers when I was 5. Barely knew what it was, but it looked kind of fun. So yeah, I actually went from there through my university degree to sort of study the electronic side, like how does this thing work, and then ended up in a career where I am now in cybersecurity.
So how many years have you been in working with computers?
Too many, Steve.
I remember going back to the University of Waterloo when I was, I think, 15, that many years ago. We went and saw this big, huge computer in this big room, and now look what we do.
Right.
I don't know if you go back that far, though. Maybe not.
I'm not going to. I would neither confirm nor deny, but certainly, yeah. I mean, my heritage goes back a fair amount. And to your point, I remember when, if I rewind all back to those number of years, the amount of power you had in your little computer then is a fraction of what you have on your watch or your phone these days, right? It's just quite incredible the amount of change that we've seen.
I don't know that I've gone to the watch yet, but I'm leaning towards it.
So, Sharon, do you remember this? It's not called a mainframe computer that Steve's talking about. Is that the proper? Maybe. I know the word mainframe. Is that good?
That's fine.
Is that before your time?
It is good.
No, not really. I was kind of in the cusp there between the two, and we're just moving into a desktop system, servers on-prem. But yes, some exposure to mainframes, but I try to avoid them.
So can I ask the dreaded question?
Sure.
We all know that there's a lot of problems with women working in technology today, and we'd like to know why, if you've got any answers, because yes, you've worked in technology all these years, but I mean, you had your own business once, didn't you?
Mm-hmm, I did.
Was it an easy process to build your business as a woman? This is going back, 15 years ago? Or?
About 8 years now.
8 years,
yes.
Yeah.
It was definitely challenging either way. Both have their challenges, both have their advantages. But being a woman in tech, definitely in the 90s was definitely difficult. And it continues to be challenging, which is very unfortunate. And we're actually seeing those numbers drop.
So what is it that, if we could just identify a few points of what was the challenge in the 90s with respect to that whole situation of being a woman in tech?
It is a very different culture. It's been termed the bro culture, and there was a lot of times I was the only female on the tech team, and that unfortunately still holds true today. A lot of times I am the only one, or at conferences the number of female attendees is very, very little, in the single-digit percentages.
Do you find that's changed as we come into 2018? Or has there been really not much of a swing?
If anything, it's gotten a little worse.
Really?
I hate to say that.
That's really
That's not
honest.
what we want to see.
Not all organisations, I will
No,
stress,
no,
not all organisations.
no.
So, Dave, you know when you grew up and you were starting to like tech, were there many, students in your class, women in particular, young females, who were also interested in tech like you?
I would say probably not so much, but there's probably a bigger reason for that, and that I went to an all-boys school. So yeah, there were very few females there. I would say
Really? Not even after class?
Say no more. But I would say, I think in general, at that time, that point in where I was, there were very few females that I knew of, and I knew a lot of people in a technology scene, and specifically in that sort of security, almost counterculture, and there were very, very few females in there. And I think that, to your point, Sharon, it's exactly the same now. It's maybe very similar, if not a little worse.
Well, what about when you went to university? You went to the University of Bath, so basically did you interact with a lot of females then who were in the same course as you?
Sure. So I had gone sort of down the engineering path rather more than the computer science path. And there were, I think, maybe out of the 150 or so that were in our intake year, probably about 6 to 8 young ladies. So was certainly not representative of the population at large.
So let's get to the nitty-gritty then,
There we
Steve.
go.
Why is it so difficult? Are parents not encouraging their children at an early enough age, as females as well as males, to get into this industry? I have no idea.
Studies show that by the time a female gets into about middle school, she starts to drop off her interest in STEM overall.
Really?
Yes. So if you think about middle school, that's about that 10 to 12 year range. And so we need to start talking to these young women, very young women, about the careers in STEM. And we need to encourage that at the school level, because it just continues to drop off after that.
Well, I know the University of Waterloo and the City of Waterloo are going very strongly forward with a new centre in downtown Waterloo that's going to hopefully help create some awareness for people going into the, as they call it, STEAM or STEM. I'm not sure what the correct word is, but do you think that will help in terms of encouraging children to get a little more involved?
I hope so. We have to encourage our girls to get dirty, get creative, give them Lego, let them go play in the mud, let them take chances and risks, because part of going into technology, you have to take chances, you have to take risks, and they have to be comfortable with that.
But do you think it was like, I'm not saying they were being bullied if they wanted to get interested in tech at a young age, but do you think the boys made fun of the girls and that's why the girls lost interest?
Oh, totally. Totally. Oh, very much so.
What about in the household? Do you think that there is a certain way that boys and girls are raised to sort of, this is what a girl does, this is what a boy does? And I'm just wondering, it doesn't sound like we've made a lot of progress in that direction. Because, again, the stats are showing we're not seeing, if not dropping off, the number of women that are getting involved in
But how about you, Dave?
IT.
I mean, did you make fun of women in tech when you start your first job? I don't know how long ago that was, I don't want to embarrass you, but you start your first job. And did you have many women in tech back then in England?
No,
did you?
No, it was, I don't think it's much different than it is now. The representation certainly wasn't there. I think, my personal viewpoint is, I think one of the things that we fail, young ladies as they're growing up, is we don't give them role models. If you think about it, when you're a kid, you typically start thinking about what you want to do in life, right? And you have a wide variety of information coming at you as to what your options are. Very rarely do you get exposed to, hey, a career in technology, career in math, career in science. These are things that you could do.
Now, you indicated you went to university for engineering, and I purposely didn't introduce you as working for a large global company, CETA, based in Geneva, Switzerland, the head office, but you're a cybersecurity guy.
That's right.
Now, how many women today get into that kind of tech environment?
You know, this is, I think it's, of all the areas in tech, it's probably one that's beginning to buck the trend a little bit.
That's nice to see.
Yeah, and I think that large portion of that comes from the security culture has always been very counter. Like, it's always been promote the different. You know, this is
Almost
why,
like a counterculture.
right. So I
That's
mean, you know, most
good.
people's sort of image of hacker people, you know, they've got green hair and they go around on skateboards with long trench coats. We promote the different, and I think that's maybe bubbled over, or is beginning to bubble over into the corporate culture, where people are seeing, yeah, it's okay to be different.
Thanks for sharing that. The question I have too is, do you think the culture in England is different than what you're finding in Canada in terms of women in trades and the IT tech side? You know, I don't know. I just was
Yeah, I
questioning that
wouldn't
the
say
other day.
I've seen enough to say that there's a difference or a similarity, to be honest. I think I don't think it's necessarily a North America versus anywhere else question. I think it's truly a global phenomenon.
That's interesting.
Well, it's an interesting because I guess maybe I'm thinking being English that, you know, there's a certain type of stereotype that tends to be formed, but I'm glad to see it. And the side that you're talking about in terms of the cybersecurity, it's interesting to see that in some areas of IT, there's a lower amount of women that are involved in it as a ratio compared to some others. And I don't know what the clue is there in terms of why would that be? Is it just the nature of what they're dealing
Well,
with?
how many employees, women, do you have in Montreal?
So certainly in my team, I just have one that's female. That's in a team of around about 12. So it's not particularly.
The question is, why only one?
Yeah.
Come on, Sharon,
And I'll be,
ask him the question.
you know, I'll be fair, when we're recruiting, when we're looking for talent, you know, the numbers of females that apply is lower. And yes, we certainly have a lot of opportunities. You know, our company itself, we're a high-tech company with a female CEO. We have a lot of females in positions of leadership, which is, you know, a refreshing change for
that's
many, many
good.
companies. So we certainly have things to promote them, you know, promote young ladies when they're in the workforce. But getting them in, still a challenge.
That's strange.
Still,
isn't
the
it,
problem
Steve?
is in
Yeah.
terms of trying to get people to come into the trade. You know, I don't think that's unusual though in terms of other trades that we've talked about. But you know what? I think we're going to maybe dive into that a little more. But we do have to take a break. Unfortunately, that's the thing that happens in television, right? So we're going to just take a moment, and we'll be right back on the Small Business Show. Welcome back to the Small Business Show. We're just starting to get into the nitty-gritty, and we want to change direction a little bit, but I like the conversation. I think we want to get a little more specific in an area right now, don't we?
Yeah. So Sharon, locally in Waterloo region, what is being done to encourage young girls to get into the tech arena? Any possible things you can share with us today?
There's definitely some mentor groups available. There's through Microsoft MVP program. I know that we have a mentorship program there to help young women who are in their first year in university,
that's
where they
good.
do need some extra support.
Yeah.
There's Girls Who Code. There's several chapters worldwide. There's a variety of initiatives being taken forth or being put forward to help and to encourage these young girls to move forward in tech.
Now, are the numbers good? Are the young girls in particular, going forward for these courses and help? And how do they find out about them? How do they know that they're available?
So a lot of times they can go to their school and see what the school offers, and from there the school can reach out to experts as well, which will help. And as for numbers, I'm not sure we're going to see those quite yet. I think it's going to take some time before everybody gets comfortable with it, but at least the Ontario government now they're putting coding into the school system, which is
I think that's
fantastic.
important because you can put all those types of things out there, but it's only as good as they know that they're there.
Yeah.
So they can't find them if they don't know they're there. So the school side, I think that's encouraging. I really think that should be more of a bigger part of the curriculum in general, certainly for girls as well.
And is your organisation doing much to promote, women into
I would say, I mean, to the point I made earlier about the issue with role models, we're trying to actively promote the young women that are in the organization, the work that they're doing, to highlight, look, this is going on within our own company.
Yeah.
You can be a woman and you can have this role. You can, take your career wherever you want to take it. And so I think we're investing quite a lot of resources to try and help tell that story. I know there's a network of
I was going to
folks
say, how do
doing
you
that.
share the story?
Yeah, I mean, there's a network of women across the company that actively promote what they do, how they do it. We're constantly looking at things, for example, like just in terms of a report I read recently in terms of recruiting numbers. So looking at the intake that we're getting for all the roles across the company, what percentage of those are women? You know, are women at senior grades? Are they at more junior grades? If they are at the lower end, how do we elevate them?
So in general, do you find that when women come into an organization that there's some kind of mentorship or some kind of support structure?
Point, yeah.
Because there's a lot of people that can share a lot of good information. It's a connectivity in organizations that sometimes is not what it should be.
Yeah, I think it's that support is one of the ways in which organizations can help today. You know, if you do nothing at all, right? If you have no resources, no special programs, support women as they enter the organization.
And also, Sharon, where do you go if you're having a problem with the guys and you're working in an office environment?
Careful.
Who do you go to? Because it's difficult, isn't it?
It's incredibly difficult. And sometimes if you report it, unfortunately, it doesn't, the steps that should be taken aren't taken.
That's a shame.
And so a lot of times, a lot of women will not report it and they'll leave. And you have a lot of women who actually drop out of technology because of the environment itself. So we want to have those mentors, but as more women leave, we don't have the mentors.
Do they have structure, though, in terms of trying to, where people are wanting to provide that information? I know you've heard the concept of exit interviews. I mean, where you can try and find out, well, what happened? Yeah. What is it that we didn't do, or what should we have done? Are they picking up on that in terms of trying to find out why women are leaving?
I think at that point it's too late. The damage has been done. And unfortunately, I think with some companies, and not all of them, some just kind of, it's a blind eye.
It's just a revolving door.
Yeah.
So, you know, like, we've talked about bullying in the media a lot lately. So in a way, it's a form of bullying if you're going to make somebody not want to work with you. So surely there should be a female there who they can go to and trust, like a mediator or a mentor of sorts that they can trust. And for all you techie companies out there, that's a good idea. I'll help you if you want me to. No, but seriously, Steve, because we don't work in this environment, I mean, we work well together, and you're a male, I'm a female, you know?
But I mean, in general, in corporate environments, I think that's missed, you know? It's not just specific to IT, it's that people leave, and it's so hard to recruit people and get good people, and if you see them leave, well, why, right? So I think that's certainly something a lot of companies are doing in some respects, but a lot don't.
It's too late once the why
in
comes
some
about,
respects,
like
sure,
Sharon said.
sure.
Any ideas then how we can move forward with this? I mean, appeal to anybody out there. What are we going to do?
Mentorship is the big one. Encouraging young girls to pursue careers in STEM and encourage them to continue to do so, and let them have a sounding board. Let them have somebody they can talk to who's been through it. It's really hard when you think you're the first one pounding down that door.
Can they also have males, though, as a mentor and to kind of look after them? They exist, don't they? I'm sure.
But I think in that case, then some of the problems that could cause the people to leave an organization may be approached and may be addressed simply by having somebody they feel comfortable talking to. So I think that's an important part of trying to
So how do you think the future going? When do you think it's going to get better? I mean, you're the experts.
I would say I think there's an opportunity for us to remember what we've forgotten. So I think back to, say, the beginning of computer programming as a profession was all women.
I know, I saw the movie.
Right?
Well, I was thinking of that movie earlier, right? In the Second World War and the coding. And
exactly. So, I mean, this is not a profession that has always been male-dominated.
No.
So we must know how to do this. That's my
So
my
go
thought.
backwards in order to come forward.
Well, there's nothing wrong with looking in the rearview mirror sometimes, right?
Absolutely.
And wasn't a computer called Janet, or was it a computer program called Janet? Am I really off base here?
Janet? No, Ada.
Ada.
Ada Lovelace.
Ada Lovelace.
There we go.
No, I thought a computer or a computer program was named after Janet. I must have got that one wrong. Ada's good though. Ada's good.
Probably stands for something.
The other Janet.
So the reason we wanted to have you guys on the show was to raise awareness about this particular topic, didn't we? We wanted to make everybody who's viewing it be a bit more open to.
Right, you know, I think what we're also finding is a lot of people are asking the same questions, right? And I don't think that they really take the time to find ways that if they want to go into STEM, you know, or they want to go into some specific profession, well, you know what, you're not alone. You don't have to be alone. So I think people, just by seeing a show like this, will hear some answers or some ideas from the questions that they may just have on top of mind, right? But where do they go, right? You know, it's such a difficult thing where people don't look beyond and see. There are some support structures there, and I just want to see more of that develop.
And it's good to see you are very happy you've always been happy in your corporate positions, and basically it was more in your, when you had your own business maybe, that you felt, you know, uncomfortable. So that means that your organisations are doing a great job, which is wonderful. Your organisation is doing a great job, but what we want to do today is to make sure that you guys in particular, you know, find more ideas. Like, how would I know that there was a job? And look, they don't say there's a job for a woman in tech or a job for, it's not a male-dominated job. So how does a woman know she can apply? Just by having the right, you know, what do you call it, diploma or degree?
Yeah, I mean, certainly speaking for us, you know, any job posting that we have, we're very clear to say that we don't discriminate on grounds of, amongst other things, gender. You know, a position is a position. We don't have male programmers and female programmers, we just have programmers. The code they write does not have a gender.
So who would, say if Sharon come along to your organisation for a job, would you interview her along with the one woman that you've got working for you now? Say if it was Montreal, would that be less scary for you to have a male and a female interviewing you, or doesn't that really matter?
I think at this point it doesn't really matter. If I was younger, it might be a little bit more comforting.
Yeah, to have a female there,
yes.
to know that she's okay.
Exactly.
Maybe that's the answer then.
Yeah, and that's certainly a trick we play. You know,
You
to
do?
call it a trick. You know, when people interview with my team, you know, Nejmiye is the young lady I'm thinking of. She sits in on all of our interviews.
That's good.
And it helps, I think, bring a different perspective. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're getting that diverse set of questions for the candidate too, which is beneficial for us because we get a more complete picture of who that candidate is.
That's good to know.
I think that's an important aspect where you have just a mixture of people involved in that interviewing process or that, you know, recruiting process, so that you're not just getting one viewpoint. And you know, I think even more companies should be doing that. To be honest with you, I think that's a good trait. Do you find with LinkedIn that it's a very supportive culture in terms of? I think so.
I think so
and I think
too.
when you smile, it
Yeah.
kind of tells me that.
You look
right?
very happy.
Yes, yes. No, and in that case, LinkedIn has worked very hard to ensure that everybody's on the same
That's good.
playing field, right? And I don't go into work feeling any different because I'm the only one different on the team. It doesn't matter.
You can do the job as good as, if not better than a male, so you should have that, you know, possibility of, you know.
I'm going to be
being
careful on that question.
It is a very, very sensitive topic, isn't it? You know, we don't want to step on anybody's toes. We want to encourage everybody to get involved and help each other. We're not, you know, slamming anybody or saying somebody's bad. But I think, what century are we in now, Steve?
21st, 22nd?
Things should change, and I'm hoping the future will change. And you guys really have shared some great advice, haven't they?
Absolutely, and I think the thing that is just getting even half an hour is not enough time to really get into some of the subject matter that we'd like to. But I guess in general, are there any parting points that you think would be important if you're looking at women trying to get into IT or STEM that you would bring forward?
Encourage them. You know, have somebody at home who is supportive, whether it be the mom or the dad, and expose them to everything.
I think I'd probably build on that a little bit and just say, you know, if you were to consider an entirely male team, you are probably going to end up with that very competition-heavy way of working, which is great. You know, you can do an awful lot there, but you can't do everything. Probably the bit that I certainly see a lot of technology companies miss is getting these teams to work together. Now, I'll say, you know, being a man, I think I'm correct in this. Women are by far better communicators.
Yeah.
Much better at getting teams to work together. That's
Sharon,
what we're
I
missing.
think that's important. We could go on, but you know, thanks Dave and Sharon for
Really
being on
good
the show
point.
today. We really
you.
enjoyed it.
Yeah.
We could dig deeper into that, right? But thanks for your time, and we'll be right back on the Small Business Show.